It's fight week for UFC 309, and has Jon Jones finally reached breaking point, or is he just playing us all along? Yes guys, welcome back to Fight Energy. In this video we're going to be reacting to about 3 or 4 clips from Jon Jones where he addresses everything from the potential Tom Aspinall fight, relinquishing the heavyweight belt, and his fight this Saturday with Stipe Miocic. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video because I think that it does give you a really good insight into the psychological state of Jon Jones heading into this fight. He's such a complex character, really difficult to analyse, but this should give us some insight. And also do like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're a fan of the UFC. I have also just noticed that I've got a bit of a shiner growing from a jiu-jitsu class I did yesterday, but hopefully that's not too off-putting for the video. But anyway, let's get straight into it. Let's react to the first clip. So the first clip we're taking a look at is Jon Jones responding to people calling him a duck on Instagram Live. Now these duck accusations are all to do with him apparently avoiding Tom Aspinall, and look, it does look that way, let's not pretend otherwise, but let's see what Jon Jones had to say.
I see quite a few people in here calling me a duck. I'm a duck. Call me a duck. Call me a chicken. Call me a goat. Call me a dog. I'm not in high school anymore, guys. A grown man out here chasing his dreams. It's funny that we really live in a world where being called a duck should affect me.
Okay, so there is about a few more seconds to run on this video, but straight away, let me know your immediate reaction to that. But that kind of reminds me of the people who say time and time again that whatever you say doesn't affect me, but deep down you feel as though it kind of is getting to him. But that doesn't make me worried at all for Jon Jones, because he's that guy who does need a bit of negative energy to fuel him during fight camps. Stipe Miocic called him a bitch when they were talking about his fight against Jon Jones, and that really got to Jon Jones. He did a tweet about it. He said, "I'm going to make you pay for calling me that." So Jon Jones, this fuels him. He's saying he doesn't care. He's not in high school. Some people get fueled by positivity around them. Others do get fueled by negative energy. And we've seen so many different versions of Jon Jones during his long UFC career. We've seen the bad guy, the guy who fought Daniel Cormier, who's not afraid to be really aggressive and ruthless in the build-up to fights. And then the nice guy, Jon Jones, like his comeback against Alexander Gustafsson, where he tries to show that he's a reformed character. Bad guy Jones is the scarier fighter. He is the more dangerous fighter. And we all know that he does feel disrespected. He is the consensus greatest of all time. But that doesn't make you immune to criticism. All the ducking criticism has been fair. Look, Stipe and Jon Jones a few years ago would have been an amazing fight. It's slightly past his sell-by date. Both fighters deserve a legacy fight, but not necessarily for the heavyweight title. Let's look what's next.
Shogun Rua was a guy that you really admired, and he gave you that opportunity to win the title. What's the difference between that and Tom Aspinall now coming up?
Well, I've always been a person to move on my own terms. And I just don't want to be one of those athletes who sticks around forever. I'm 37 years old, which is old for combat sports. I fight for a living.
That's fair enough. 37 is old to be in combat sports. And fair enough, he doesn't want to be Tony Ferguson, BJ Penn, these fighters who do hang around too long, start racking up the losses, and their legacies ultimately do get affected by it. However, I do need to circle back to what we just said. Fair enough, have the legacy fight, but by holding up the heavyweight division, by avoiding the legitimate #1 contender, you're kind of harming your legacy anyway. And although you're not hanging around too much to rack up the losses, you're hanging around in fights that aren't really getting the public interest.
For a living, and I don't think the fans realize my body and what I've put it through over the years. I've been fighting for a very long time at the absolute highest level, and I just don't feel like I'm in a position to have to fight much longer. I want to fight guys.
Again, what he's saying is objectively true, but it doesn't necessarily paint the full picture. Because as he said, he was in his early 20s when he started that light heavyweight reign. He's been an athlete for such a long time, but there have been large periods of inactivity where it could be argued that he's avoided facing the best fighter at that time. I'm thinking Francis Ngannou at heavyweight in particular. It seems to more cynical people that Jon Jones was waiting for Francis to retire before coming back to heavyweight. I don't know if it was that calculated, if I'm being totally honest, But at the same time, what Jon Jones is saying here doesn't paint the full picture. He has had a long career. What he did at light heavyweight was undeniably great, but he's only had one fight at heavyweight.
I want to fight guys who have legacies that's worth challenging. And Tom simply doesn't have a legacy that's worth getting me out of bed. You know, he's not that important to me. Alex Pereira, on the other hand, he's the person that I believe would be, I want to use the word worthy of being in there with me. I get that Tom's exciting and that a lot of young fans would love to see me challenged. But I've been doing that literally my whole career. I've been the main event my whole career. Tom's late. I don't know if he went the amateur route, but I've been here since he was in high school, since most people were in high school. Most of our fans were in high school. So it's just right now, if I were to do it again, it would be against Alex Pereira, just because he actually has a resume worthwhile.
And this is exactly, if you go back a couple of videos, this is exactly what I predicted would happen. I don't think Jon Jones does end up fighting Tom Aspinall. I think next summer we have one of the biggest fights in UFC history, Jon Jones against Alex Pereira. It's kind of a battle of the GOAT against the potential GOAT. Because if Alex Pereira beats Jon Jones at heavyweight, let's say this fight does happen at heavyweight, then Alex Pereira has to be considered the greatest of all time. Forget the losses on his record. He's a 3-weight world champion, and to finish it all off, he beat the previous greatest of all time. And Jon Jones is talking about legacy. He always talks about legacy. Beating Stipe Miocic, who is arguably the best heavyweight of all time, and then beating this superstar, the next generation, Alex Pereira, would cement his legacy. And to be fair, at this moment in time, it would do more for his legacy than facing Tom Aspinall. I'm British. I've got reason to be biased towards Tom Aspinall. But Alex Pereira is more of a legacy fighter at this point. Regardless of the division, when you look back at people's records, you look at the names over the weight classes, and Alex Pereira is currently the biggest name in the UFC. So is it a case, like Jon Jones says, that Tom Aspinall is just late? He's just missed his opportunity? Possibly. But the fact remains, Jon Jones is fighting for the World Heavyweight title to defend his World Heavyweight title this weekend. So he should be fighting the best fighters. Tom isn't late. Tom is right on time because he's the number one contender. It's Stipe who's in the wrong place at the right time. So it seems as though Jon Jones is having everything his way. Is that fair because he's the greatest of all time? Should you give him more leeway? But it does compromise the integrity of the belt, of the World Heavyweight Championship, giving a title shot to a guy who definitely doesn't deserve it. As we're talking about the belt, it makes sense to take a look at this next clip, where Jon Jones talks about vacating the heavyweight belt, even if he wins on Saturday night.
Well, the interim championship shouldn't have been there in the first place. The only reason why there was an interim championship fight was because I got hurt and they needed to keep the importance of that Madison Square Garden event. But Sergey and Aspinall shouldn't have been fighting for an interim title in the first place.
This is quite ironic, difficult to argue with, because he won the heavyweight title against Cyril Gane, someone who'd never been the heavyweight champion, and it was Jon Jones's first fight at this new weight class. So saying that Tom Aspinall's interim title's illegitimate or something like that, you kind of also have to bring into question the legitimacy of your own title, even though it was vacant at the time. And he won it, he won the fight, it was completely one way. The point still stands. If there are question marks around the interim belt, there have to be question marks around the unification fight.
They should have just been a replacement fight, just a main event. I think making it an interim fight was premature. And now you have a bunch of confused people, you know? When you have a dominant champion that's been around as long as I have, there was no reason to put an interim championship. That's the repercussion of Madison Square Garden last year.
So would you care if a title was on the line against Alex Pereira? You'd be happy with it being a feature fight?
It'd be cool to fight over the heavyweight championship, but I would also willingly give up the heavyweight championship. I walked away from the light heavyweight championship, and I'd love to walk away from this one as well, on top, on his own terms, good head and shoulder, making lots of money. I love the position that I'm in right now. Fighting Pereira for the...
So there is a lot to unpack there. Jon Jones saying that he'd be happy to relinquish the World Heavyweight Championship fight to fight Alex Pereira. I mean, Tom Aspinall must be pulling his hair out at this point, saying, what do I have to do to fight Jon Jones? It just seems as though that fight isn't happening. However, there is an alternative view which we've not really discussed yet. that this is just pure public negotiation for Jon Jones. Maybe the Alex Pereira fight, he thinks, yeah, that's an option. It will always be there because they are the biggest names in the sport. But I do want to fight Tom Aspinall. I am interested in silencing the haters, but I want the most bang for my buck. I want the most money possible. The more I say I'm going to retire, I'm not going to fight Tom Aspinall, the more the public are clamouring for this fight, the more money he'll be able to demand in negotiations. Could he just be playing the whole MMA community like this? He's just laughing. Like we said at the start of the video, he doesn't really care about the haters, or at least he uses the hate to fuel his performances. But could this all just be genius negotiation tactics by Jon Jones? Let me know what you think. The more that he really plays into this, and the fact that he is addressing it now, makes me think that it could just be a big negotiation play.
Banff belt, that'd be cool. We both have
For the BMF
two belts in
belt,
two weight classes. The night we fought, we'd be both fighting for our third belt, which would be the Banff. How cool would that be? You heard it here first. I haven't had this conversation with any other reporter.
Okay, so Jon Jones finishes by saying that the fight with Alex Pereira would ideally be for the BMF belt. And if you noticed, he tried to sneak it in at the end there. He said, yeah, this would be for my third belt. He's almost trying to... He's covering his back, undermining Alex Pereira's potential heavyweight run once Jon Jones has left the sport, because he knows that everyone's saying if Alex Pereira gets the third belt, gets the heavyweight title, that's the first 3-belt world champion. He is the new greatest of all time. But Jon Jones is just trying to make a sneaky claim there, saying, you know, one of us will be the first 3-time world champion, because he probably quite fairly thinks that he would beat Alex Pereira. The superior wrestling would probably just prove too much of a gulfing class at this point. Jon Jones has never shown to be chinny, and really there seems to be one way in which Alex Pereira could win that fight. Before we do go, there's a couple of things that I do want to look at. And firstly, this one was not on my 2024 bingo card. It is Magomed Ankalaev tweeting out in support of Tom Aspinall against Jon Jones, saying, I just tried to read this tweet as it's written and it gave me a bit of a headache, so I'm going to have to translate. Sounds like someone's scared of Big Tom. To which Jon Jones responds, Magomed, jealousy won't earn you legend status, my friend. Train harder, hate less. Want to truly insult me? Break some of my records first. Let's get started. I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's quite interesting. Magomed Ankalaev, the current #1 contender at light heavyweight, probably just trying to keep his name relevant, keep his name in the hat for the Alex Pereira fight. I can't see these two ever fighting. I don't think it would make sense for either fighter at this point. I'm sure Ankalaev would want it at light heavyweight for the legacy fact, but going off what Jon Jones said previously, the Magomed Ankalaev fight would not be for legacy, so it wouldn't make sense. And finally, we're going to take a serious turn, take a look at the #1 heavyweight contender, what he posted on Instagram stories, a certain present that he bought his dog. Okay, so that is British humour at its finest. Nothing over the top, nothing too offensive. Tom is just letting Jon Jones know, I'm thinking about you, I'm trying to get in your head. Get the job done this Saturday, and then we'll see each other next year. But guys, let me know what you think of what Jon Jones has been saying heading into this fight week. Like I said, he is someone who embraces that negative energy. All the haters will just be fueling what is probably going to be a devastating performance on Saturday. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys later.